I died when I was 27 years old. I went to the other side, and I came back here by choice.
How did
So
that? But how? And I saw that in your bio.
it was a medical accident. I was
Okay.
allergic to the medication they gave me.
Hello, I'm John Brink, and we are podcasting on the Brink from downtown British Prince George, British Columbia, Canada. For all those people watching us around the world, Canada and British Columbia in particular is a large province, and we are located in the center of British Columbia, and that means we are about 500 miles or 800 kilometers for European watchers north of Vancouver, which is in the center, northwest, east, west, and a beautiful area. It's a beautiful day today. We got clear skies and sunshine. It's about around freezing. 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had about 45 degrees below zero, and kind of nippy. But today is a good day. Today we have a very special guest. Her name is June Edward, and she is a psychic, right? Is it? Did I say
Psychic
that right?
medium.
Say
Psychic
again.
medium. Psychic
Psychic,
medium.
psychic medium. So that's going to be very, very interesting. And June, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So,
Well,
so
God, it's a
give
little
it.
warmer where I'm at than you are.
So, what is the temperature in your area?
It's probably about 65 right now, and we're going to drop down to about 45 or 50 this weekend, which is really cold for us.
I'm not sorry for you. No, it's a beautiful area. I've been there several times, and it's a beautiful province, and well, it's a beautiful country and beautiful continent, really, Canada and the United States. So, June, you have such an interesting bio, and I don't know where to start. So let's start with giving us an idea where you're from originally, and then where did you get your training, education, and then how did you get to becoming a psychic? And I have difficulty with the word
You can just call me a medium.
a medium. Okay,
A medium.
yeah. Okay, how did you get to that stage in your life?
So I was born with a lot of ability. I'm from Massachusetts originally in the United States, and I live in
Right.
Florida now. And I was born with a lot of ability. My youngest memory was about the age of 3 years old. I remember waking up in the morning and hearing someone calling my voice. I got out of bed thinking it was my parents, and they were asleep. So I went back to bed and then started seeing faces around the room, which was very frightening for me. I pulled the covers up over my face, and the sun started to come up, and I started seeing the shadows trying to get into my face. So it was very scary as a child, especially seeing things and hearing things that other people weren't seeing and hearing. And when I got to be school age, I would tell people what was going to happen before it happened, and I quickly got labeled as a freak. So then
Yeah.
I stopped telling people things, but it was very scary. It was nobody I could confide in. I ended up with a lot of nervous habits and tics. I bit my nails and all kinds of different things. I stuttered. And I tried to block the ability the best that I could.
Was it
So
part of your family? Did other
it
people?
is. So everyone has ability. It's like
Right.
playing a piano. Some people sit down and just play chopsticks. Other
Yeah.
people want to develop it a little bit more. They'll learn a couple songs. Other people really want to do it for a living, so they learn to be a concert pianist. And I'm like the 6-year-old prodigy that sits down and plays Mozart. I just had a lot more ability than most people right off the bat. My mom actually was a medium, which I had no idea. I'm
No.
one of 8 children, and my dad kidnapped the youngest 5 of us when I was 10,
Oh
telling
my.
us that our mom was crazy, and, she wasn't crazy, she was a medium. Yeah, and, years later when my
Is she still
abilities opened
alive,
up.
your
Nope,
mom?
my parents both died about 3 or 4 years ago, both
Okay.
at the same age of 93, the
Wow.
same day, 1 year apart.
Oh no.
Yep.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I ended up training for mediumship at the same place as my mother had trained 50 years earlier. There were people that
Now,
even remembered her.
one more question, June. So you had have siblings that are seven other ones, right? Do any
There's
of
5 still
those?
5 still here. So I think they all have ability, but they're afraid of them. My oldest sister and I have quite a psychic connection, but she's very afraid of her ability and refuses to acknowledge it or develop it. Most people that have the ability, if they cannot turn it off, end up self-medicating. So they become alcoholics or drug addicts. And quite honestly, that's the other half of my family. I have 3 children, 3 boys. They all have a lot of ability, but because they're men in their careers, they certainly don't want people being aware of it.
Why
But
not?
well, one of them was pretty high up in the military, and they think you're crazy when you have abilities. Bottom line, so you have to be
So,
careful who you say things to.
so I was born in 1940 in Holland, northeastern Holland, actually, just during the Second World War, when it just started, and grew up. I was born November the 1st, so I'm approaching now. I'm 83 and a half years old, and my dad was drafted into the Dutch army. And my mother was pregnant with me, and then I had a sister and a brother, and for 5 years we didn't know if the last time that they heard from him, he was caught in the bombing of Rotterdam, and thousands of people died when that happened, and they didn't know if he was dead or alive. And so it was pretty rough growing up, and I find it interesting that you say you, from the time that you were 3, you already had the benefit or the liability of medium, of seeing things that other
Well,
people
a lot of
likely,
young people, yeah, a lot of young people do. A lot of
yeah.
children. When you
So,
come through from the other side, you bring a lot through.
right. So the point that I was making is that I still remember things from when I was 3 and 4 years old, because Holland, or the Allied forces landed in Normandy in the summer of 1944, and they pushed the German soldiers out of Europe back into Germany, and at the same time they were bombing Germany and all those areas that were complementing the forces of the German forces with bombs and ships and all those things. And we were only 10 or 15 minutes from the border, and my mother would take us out as kids, standing on a flat roof in the back, because not because so many things were to see, but she felt safer outside than inside. And
Yeah, I
overhead,
can.
we had up to 300, 350 bombers all at the same time. An
Wow.
amazing sound, which I still remember. And in the distance, we could see Bremen, Bremerhaven, Hamburg, Kiel, all those places. And we saw the sky being red, although it was quite a ways away, but you could see the whole sky was red. And so that's kind of what I still remember. And then the liberation, we were liberated by the Canadian Army April the 12th, 1945, and we saw far too much that we should not have seen. The fighting was very heavy in our area, and then we saw people being shot, and all those kind of things. And then the other part is that 1944, 1945 was the coldest winter on record at that time, and it was called the Hunger Winter because the Germans had cut off all the food supply to those regions, in northern Holland in particular. And so, as kids, myself, my brother, and my sister then were very young. Obviously, I was around 5. They were 6 and 7. Every morning, we go with gunny bags to the railroad yards, pick up anything edible or burnable, And I can still, even now, nearly 78 years, 79 years later, I can feel the feeling of hunger and cold. And then the other part that always stayed with me until I got counseling for it, actually, is the feeling of the inner child, the fear of losing that one parent that we had, because there was nobody else there, because everybody had their own issues and their own problems.
Right.
And so I remember all of that, and then but being liberated by the Canadian Army made such an impression on me that I knew I would go to the land of my heroes. I always kind of felt I was a Canadian, and so I tried to go when I was 17, and then I was drafted into the Dutch Air Force, and then finally I won when I was 23. I went to Canada. And I had the dream of going to Canada, and I had the dream of building a lumber mill, because my grandfather was a master carpenter and my dad managed a small lumber company. And the point that I'm trying to make, give you a bit of my history coming back, and the other one was that I had the dream of building a mill, and the benefit that I had, I was not a success story in academically. I failed grade 3 and I failed grade 7 3 times. And they said, what are we going to do with this guy? And my parents were beautiful people, but some people said, well, I think what you should do is send him to the mentally challenged school. Fortunately, they didn't do that, so maybe we should get him to learn a trade. And they sent me then to a furniture factory at 13, and I became a furniture maker. And I still had the dream, and people are hard, especially young people in particular, are hard on each other. So all the friends that I had in grade 7 and other friends that I had that went on to college and then university, I was looked at as a laborer, so they kind of looked down on me, but I always knew inside of me that I would be successful as well. But I felt I had to start anew again with nothing. And I did that to prove to me that I could do it. So when I left Holland in the summer of in June of 1965, I came here with nothing. One suitcase, couldn't speak the language, didn't know a soul, didn't have a job, but I had the dream of building a mill. And then, and then came to Vancouver, fortunately, went to the immigration department, talked to a fellow there. He spoke German, so I could speak some German. I told him what I wanted to do. He said, go to Prince George. He said, boom, son, that's where they're building sawmills and all that kind of stuff. That's where I am today. And the point that I'm making is that starting from nothing, and then, in fact, when I came off the bus here, I couldn't speak the language. I couldn't speak the language, didn't know a soul, and didn't have a job. But I had $25.47. I counted it 3 times. But the other thing that's important underneath it is that attitude. I'm always positive. No matter how tough today is, I know tomorrow will be better. I have passion. Whatever I do, I give it 150%. And then work ethic. And I work harder than anybody. And even still now, that's what I do. And it's not about my success, but to making the point or give you some ideas of what is behind me, so we can talk about that potentially. Is that I had the dream of building this lumber mill, and so I started as a cleaner man, and then gradually worked up. And today, I would be considered to be quite successful. Have a number of lumber mills and all those kind of things. So my strong area likely is that I have lots of learning that I did working hands-on from the time that other people would go the formal route. I was more directly involved. I always paid attention to what made people successful. I would go all over the place already when I was young, before I came to Canada, to listen to people that had been successful and trying to figure out what made them click and what made them successful. And then at the same time, when I came here to Canada, it didn't take very long. I started out cleanup man, and then then it's a question of getting noticed. Very quickly, I became a superintendent, and then already within 2 years, I was part owner of a lumber mill, and then from there, I progressed in the other direction. What did I have that other people maybe didn't have that were as successful? And everybody said, "Oh, you're so successful," and blah blah. I didn't feel that way. I still felt that I had failed, even well into being here for 20 years and already having all kinds of business. I still kind of had that feeling of failure. And so what made you successful is that I believe that I'm somewhat of a visionary. I can look forward to, I'm not talking about today and tomorrow, and there's a lot of people in business that are professional managers. They deal more with the current situation and developing. For me, it always has been a question of looking forward 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and then I still have a business plan that I developed for the company that became what they could now call the Brink group of companies. It's a fairly large size company. I'm sole owner of it. But if I still look at my business plan that I developed then, it still applies today. And even the people that are part of my management team look at it and say, amazingly, in terms of how did, to look forward in developing a plan, again, is critically important, even in those areas for people that are entrepreneurial or want to become successful in business, to the way to look forward in an indirect way, and you're the expert likely. What makes people able or stand out from others in terms of looking forward as it applies to business or to life in general? That is the long
Well,
question, too short answer.
so we plan this life before we come here. That's the reality of it. There is no accidents in your life. There's nothing that happens coincidentally. And the universe wants you to think you have choice. So the only choice that you really have is to continue delaying the reason that you're here. And the main reason that you're here is to learn lessons, basically, to advance your soul. So you can take your life from the high side or the low side. That's your choice. Okay. You can continue to delay the things that you're supposed to do here until you come back for the next life if you want to. So we're living here in a 3D existence. Have you seen the movie Avatar? Have you seen any of the Avatar movies?
No.
No. There were, when they came out, I thought it was amazing because it's basically um, some type of an alien body, I guess. But the human gets into it, and then in the morning, here they are. And that's basically what we are. You go to sleep at night and more of your soul leaves your body. You get up in the morning and you're playing a role here. That's all
Now,
this
now,
is.
to, now to clarify it, June, I should say, yeah, I believe an avatar is an individual that can be you, but it's I've seen it in some programs, but not in the actual movie.
Yeah, the movie was very good if you get a chance to see it
Okay,
because it really
okay.
explains our existence.
And and
So,
and
we're
June,
here in
June,
a
can I ask another question, just to
sure.
in my mind? And sorry, I'm extremely interested in what you got to say, but I just want to understand. It's not based on religion, right? Religion is something
No,
altogether different, right?
no.
Yeah.
So there's
Okay.
1,764 recognized religions just in the United States alone.
Oh my God.
They're all right and they're all wrong. That's the bottom
Yeah.
line.
Yeah.
So, I died when I was 27 years old. I went to the other side and I came back here by choice.
How did
So
that? But how did? And I saw that in your bio.
it was a medical accident. I was
Okay.
allergic to the medication they gave me. And when I got to the other side, it was amazing. It was absolutely incredible. And I had a full life review and I was told that it was not my time. I could stay if I wanted to or I could come back. It was my choice. And the only reason I came back here at that time was for my children because I knew I was supposed to be here for them. And I still only had 2 out of my 3. I wouldn't have had my 3rd one if I had not come back. But they
So they
brought me
were
the
still
greatest
very
surprise.
young, right? The two,
They were still very young, that's correct, yeah, and
right?
that's the reason that I came back. I mean, I laugh now because I'm sure they knew I was gonna come back and do what I'm doing because I didn't plan this on this side. Clearly, I planned this before I came back, because we
So you
continue to
would,
reincarnate. We
you would,
reincarnate thousands and thousands of times.
so you went to the hospital, whatever setting it was, you got medication that was wrong, and you died,
I was allergic to it, that's correct. Yeah,
and you officially died.
yeah. Mhm,
Yeah,
officially.
and
So
then okay,
we are not the suit that's sitting here. This is not who we are. We are the energetic soul that's inside here. And when this body dies, that continues on because energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be created or changed. So when you get up in the morning, you're playing a role here in a body, in a human body. And this human body has a brain, right? Well, your brain is nothing more than a very fancy computer. It helps you process all the information that you have. But your brain has a very specific job. What is that job? That job is to protect you. How does it do that? It creates fear. So most people are making their decisions based on fear. When you do that, it's a 50-50 crapshoot. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, but you're always questioning your decisions. When you learn how to get in touch with your soul is way too big for this body. Some of it's in your body, some of it's over your body that they call an aura over your head. And the majority of your soul is in the lowest level of heaven, which is where I went when I died, the 5th dimension. And that has all the knowledge of all your lifetimes, and it orchestrates the timing of the events in this lifetime. So when you listen to your soul, when you get that gut instinct, that knowing, oh, I shouldn't do this or I should do this, and you just do it without thinking it through and it works out fine, that is your soul. And when you learn how to get in touch with your soul and make your decisions from your soul, it works out fine 100% of the time. One of my first big businesses was a daycare center licensed for 125 kids. I had no background in it, no teaching experience. I had just finished going through a divorce and had $10,000 in my pocket. And I went and leased a building for 1 year with an option to buy at $5,000 a month. I walked in, I talked to the guy. It was a sporting goods store. He had thousands of dollars worth of material in there. I said, what about all this stuff? He says, well, I can't get rid of it. He goes, if you want to buy it, he goes, give me 5,000 and buy it. I'm like, okay, there's the 10,000, right? I turned that and sold all those items that were in there for over $40,000, which gave me the money to keep investing. I just knew this was what I was supposed to do. That was my soul. And I just kept moving forward and everything worked out fine. I spent 40,000 just on the septic system that I didn't have, but I was paying people every week. When I opened in July, I had 5 kids in the place. 3 of them were mine. By September, I was almost full. I just knew this was what I was supposed to do because I listened to my soul. Now, when your soul is telling you something and you go against it, you know it's not going to work out.
so is that lack of certainty, or lack of certainty of not knowing this step that I'm taking? I'm not sure. I probably, if I'm too negative, or I get
That's in your
so,
head. That's
yeah,
all in your
yeah.
head.
And then I get what happens to a lot of people. They get negative feedback from outside, from all directions.
And they get back in their head. They
Yeah.
get back in your head. When you make the decisions from your head, it's a crapshoot. When you make it from your soul, you know it's the right decision. You just do it. Everybody told me I was crazy. Everybody. I
So
kept on going.
how do
Dude,
you get from the head making the decision to the soul? Because that's where you want to, at what
through
point do you
meditation.
know this
Through
decision
meditation.
is from the soul?
You know it. It's a knowing. You just know
Right.
it. Everyone's had that happen in their life at some point in time. You've done something that you just knew you had to do it. You just did it. You didn't think it through. You just did it. And it worked out fine. That's the knowing. And the fastest way to raise your vibration and get in touch with your soul is to meditate. So, quantum physics, the speed of light is almost 300 million miles a second. It's 299 something, okay?
Right.
When my soul left my body and went into the light to go to heaven, I was traveling at almost 300 million miles a second. Then it came back into my body at that speed. That's a very high vibration. So we live in 3D. The lowest level of heaven is 5D. That sweet spot in the middle, your dream state at night, is called 4D. Now, suppose they're trying to get in touch with you from the other side and give you a message. Maybe you're going to be in danger. Maybe something exciting is going to happen, and someone from the other side wants to give you a message. If you're not paying attention during the day or meditating to be able to get in touch, then the only way they can reach you is at night when you're sleeping. When you go to sleep at night, your vibration rises and you go to that 4D dream state. More of your soul leaves your body. They lower their vibration and they meet you there. And you know it's a visit, not a dream, because it seems real. You wake up right away and you remember it all. That's a visit from the other side. Pay attention to what they say.
So, how will people know? You said that you will know when it happens. I cannot remember in my nearly 84 years that that has happened. Is that because it didn't
A knowing?
happen?
You've never had a knowing? You've never just known you were supposed to not do something or do something?
I
You didn't meet your
did.
wife, you know she was the one?
No, what happened to me is maybe I'm not recognizing the state. So when I came to Canada and left with nothing, that was a decision I had to make, and I knew it.
You just knew it.
Then
You
when
just
I
knew you were supposed to go to Canada. Yeah,
Yeah. And then
that's your
I
soul.
came here, it started with nothing. I made several decisions more over and over and over again. I have made decisions that have been critical in my life, including my wife, obviously. And so we've been together
Because
for
you
40
just
years.
knew.
And
That is your soul. If you had not listened to your soul and gone to Canada, you would have delayed everything in your life.
yeah,
You would have eventually gotten there, but it would have taken a lot longer for you to get where you're supposed to be.
yeah. And then, you know, the other thing, I'm just trying to tell you bits and pieces of my life so that you can give me feedback, be interesting for everybody watching it at the same time. So the other part that happened to me, I was academically not very successful, and then I still did not feel good about myself or about happy-go-lucky and all of that stuff. Worked very, very hard to build my company, and then what happened to me is that after I was here already for 32 years and my businesses were going well, but still I kind of felt I had failed and deep down. And then I walked into a store here and I picked up a book. Still don't know why I did. And the title of the book was Driven to Distraction. It was about ADHD. And I said, oh my God, that's me. And I bought the book, I wrote in the book in Dutch. Now I finally know who I am. And the book was written by Dr. Halliwell, also ADHD actually, and I had him on my podcast about 2 weeks ago. He wrote the book in 1993. I bought the book in 1997. I still have it, and it kind of explained to me
So,
ADHD, frequency of occurrence, and I became very vocal in it and sharing it with on my podcast as well, and several presentations that I do and with other people.
so the reason that a lot of people have lots of issues in their life is because we come here to learn 5 soul lessons. That's my book, All's Fair in Love and Karma. And the
Can you
first
show us a
lesson that
copy of
we're
the book? It's behind you,
sure.
right?
The first
So
lesson that you're here to learn is self-worth.
Right.
Self-worth was one of probably the last lesson that you were learning, but it should be the first. And it's not value. Value is what other people place on you. Self-worth is the understanding that you are so important that you are the only one of you in this entire universe.
Absolutely.
Even if you were a twin, you would not be the same. You would
No.
have different likes, different wants, and different fingerprints.
Right.
Okay? So, and it's also the understanding that although society wants you to think it's selfish or narcissistic to put yourself first, it is not. It's where everything else comes from. If you can't put yourself first and take care of yourself, you're not going to be here to take care of anybody else, are you?
No.
It's that simple. So everything has to come from there, self-worth. The second lesson we're here to learn is trust and communication. You have to trust, number one, that there is a higher power and that there is a plan and that you made the plan. So anything that's happening in your life, it's not happening to you. It's happening for you. It's happening for your highest and best. And when you're stubborn and you can't get out of your own way, the universe will step in. And you may not like what's happening, but in hindsight, when you look back, you can see that it happened for your highest and best, always. Okay?
Right.
And it's also understanding how to communicate. You have to be able to communicate your wants and needs to the people in your life, whether it's a spouse, an employer, an employee, a friend. You have to be able to communicate. And then sex is just nothing more than communication. If you can't trust and communicate outside the bedroom, you're never going to be able to trust and communicate inside the bedroom. Then you have unconditional love. Unconditional love is not playing the martyr and saying, oh, I have to stay in this abusive relationship because I'm supposed to be practicing unconditional love. That's not unconditional love. This is where the lesson of self-worth is going to kick back in because all the lessons keep reinforcing each other. Okay. Unconditional love would be saying, listen, we had a great run. I really want the best for you. I want the best for me. This isn't working. We need to go our own way. And it's truly wanting the best for that person, not bad mouthing them as soon as you turn your back. Suppose you had a child that you loved dearly and they did something horrific like murdering a neighbor in a fit of rage and they go to prison for the rest of their life. You don't like what your child did, but you still unconditionally love your child, hopefully, right? Then I
Right.
hear people tell me, oh, there's a condition there. It was your child or blah, blah, blah. Well, let's turn it around. Suppose your child gets killed by a drunk driver.
Exactly.
Are you gonna let it destroy your life by hating this person for the rest of their life for a mistake that they made? Your child already knew that they weren't going to live that long. You know the plan before you come here. So they're not suffering on the other side. It's just you here that's suffering. So
Right.
again, unconditional love has to kick in because you don't want the other person truly to have to suffer because they made a mistake. Put yourself in those shoes. Suppose it was you, right?
Right.
So unconditional love is a huge one, and it's very, very hard for people. Then you have money and balance. Everything in the universe has to stay in balance. Right now, the entire world is out of balance, and it's good and evil that's out of balance right now. That's what's going on in the world. You have left and right, summer and winter. Everything has to stay in balance. And money is energy. That's why it's called currency. And it's what we use in this 3D world to show whether or not your life is in balance. Let's say, everything has to be an equal exchange of value as well. You don't walk into the grocery store and pay $1 million to buy a bunch of bananas, right? It
Right.
has to be an even exchange of energy for everything. I have a relationship mastery program, and it's a 7-week program to help people reconcile relationships within their life and change their energy. I gave that program at no cost to some military members when I first started. Do you know they didn't do the program? It had no value to them because there was no equal exchange of energy to them. It has to be an equal exchange of energy to have value. Let's say you're working 80 hours a week and you want to save your money. Now the rest of your life is out of balance. You have no time for your friends, your family, your hobbies, right? And then you're saving all this money. You don't have enough self-worth to be able to spend the fruits of your labor on yourself either, right? Then self-worth kicks back in again. So people have to understand that because money is energy, it flows like a river. You can't hoard it. You have to, the more you put out, the more comes back. It ebbs and flows. Okay. And then the last lesson that people have to learn is patience. We live in a world right now of instant gratification. Everyone wants everything right now. And it doesn't work that way. Everything comes to you at the perfect time. If you're, 40 years old, your biological clock is ticking, you wanted to get married and have kids and you don't, well, that's because you wrote it into your plan that way. Maybe when you're 50, you're going to marry a widower and you're going to end up raising their children. You don't know. You have to trust the plan because you made the plan. So you should get up every day with an air of excitement and say, what did I plan for myself today? Because it's exciting. If you knew everything that was going to happen in your life in advance, you would not get out of bed in the morning. It's that simple.
Exactly.
But we all come here to learn these 5 lessons for our soul advance. And the universe wants you to think that you have free will. Okay. So it'll offer you door 1, 2, and 3. You take door 1, you go through it, you get married, you have a couple of kids, you get divorced. Where are you? And you're in front of door 1, 2, and 3. Most people are creatures of habit. They're going to take door 1 again. They're going to go through it. They're going to get married, have a couple more kids, and get divorced. They're going to be in front of door 1, 2, and 3. If they learn the lesson they were supposed to learn, they're not going to take door 1 anymore. They're going to take door 2 or door 3. And they still may get married and have more children, but it's not going to end in divorce the way it did the other 2 times because they learned the lesson they were supposed to learn.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5 lessons. Yep.
5 lessons. Give it to us once more, June. Again, not in the same, but just to kind of self-worth, meaning that you are unique, a unique individual in this world.
You are
There is
most
nobody else other than you.
and you have to come first. You are most important.
Right.
You have to come
2,
first. And trust and communication.
meaning that, as you said, that to become a good communicator is very important.
Trust the plan. Trust the plan.
Right. And why is that so important?
Why?
Yeah,
Because
other than the obvious.
Here and be poor me. Why is this happening to me? Oh, woe is me. Oh, my life sucks. Oh, this. Oh, that.
Rather than
saying, I planned this. What's coming next?
Okay.
You can hindsight's wonderful, right? 2020.
Right.
You can look behind you and look at the breadcrumbs and see how everything has brought you to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and brought you to where you are, right?
Right.
Well, if you can trust the plan going backwards, you have to trust the plan going forward. That everything that's happening is taking you to the next level.
3.
Unconditional love.
What does that mean?
What does it mean? It means you love. You love. You don't hate. You love. No matter what. You love, even if you don't have them in your life. I've had many friends. I love them dearly, but they do not bring joy to my life. When they're with me, it's not a good situation. I want the best for them. I would be there in a heartbeat if they had an emergency. I love them unconditionally, but they cannot be in my life.
Right. So how did you call that again? Finding love?
Unconditional love.
That one would be looking for? And I'll be talking about... No.
Unconditional love is with anyone. It's loving without condition. It's not, if you come home every day and bring me a paycheck, I'll love you.
Yeah.
That's the condition.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's a good one. 4?
Money and balance. You have to balance your energy.
Yeah. So that means really that for money, it has to have a balance. Good example that you gave is that you don't go to the grocery store, pay $1 million and get a handful of bananas.
Right.
That's not balance.
It's an equal exchange of energy. But you
Yeah.
also have to learn how to balance your own energy. So, for
Right.
instance, everyone's interested in the law of attraction, right? The
Right.
law of attraction only works when you raise your vibration and you're working with the universe, you're working with the angels, and you're in that flow, that energy flow. Okay. But
Right.
if you cannot balance that energy, for every high, there's a low. You'll crash
Right.
because that's the balance if you can't balance your energy,
Right. And then 5,
is patience,
patience. And
getting things
and
when they're supposed to come.
so keep doing the right things. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 will come. Don't expect it tomorrow and maybe next week, but as long as you keep doing 1, 2, 3, 4, it will come and you will recognize it when it does.
So most people pray, right? Or talk to the universe somehow, right? When you
I'm an
meditate, you
agnostic, so I'm not.
okay.
So
Do you
I
talk to
believe
the
that there's all
universe?
kinds of stuff there, but I don't know what it is. So
Do you talk to the universe at all? Do you ask for anything ever?
well, not in terms of saying, so I'm not an atheist, but I'm not in a structured religion.
Okay, that's fine.
So I sometimes question it, saying, okay, what should I do now? Or how about this? And I do that to myself. And
Okay,
then,
so that's asking. That's a
yeah,
form of
so that,
asking. So
yeah,
when you
so I,
understand how the universe works, because
yeah,
angels are real, okay? Angels are real. I
right,
never believed any of this stuff until I died. Let me tell you, this stuff is real. And they are a separate race. They were never human, and their
right,
entire existence is to help us. But their rule is they can't help if you don't ask. You have to ask.
right.
So if you lose something, you ask St. Anthony, and it shows up immediately. And when
Yeah,
you understand that they're here to help you, but you have to
yeah,
understand it's like if you don't know what a red stop sign means, you're not going to know what it means, right?
no.
It's like another language. Do you speak Latin? Can you read Latin?
Me?
Yeah.
No,
No. So if I showed it to you, you wouldn't have a clue, right?
no, not a clue.
Okay. So it's the same thing with the angels. They're trying to give you information. They're
Yeah,
trying to point you in the right direction. But if you don't know, you don't know.
no,
So they talk in binary code and numbers. So
yeah,
people see repeating numbers. They might see 1111 somewhere or 222, right? Or 1234 keeps showing up. It's a
right,
message from the other side that they're trying to put you on a specific path.
right. So, taking this personal, if I look back, then that's why I gave you kind of the background so you know where I'm kind of going. It was a challenge and all these other kinds of things. I had the dreams, I followed the dreams, I have a vision going forward. I can know that I know what I do tomorrow. I'm going to go to Victoria. It gets a flight at 10 past 1, and I hope the flight is
So
on
okay,
time.
so let's say there was a problem with the flight and you're not supposed to get on it. You would
There
have a
was,
knowing. Right off the bat, you would wake up and say, I shouldn't get on that plane because your soul would be trying to give you information if you're not supposed to be on that plane. Or you
right,
would start seeing 999s everywhere. Okay. So
right,
you would start seeing signs.
right. So I'm a
They're always
pilot.
trying to show you.
I'm a pilot as well, so I'm okay with the plane. But I've been on a few times on a plane that was a delicate process, but I didn't get a sign yet at that point. If I would get a sign, or when I would have a strong feeling about it, I shouldn't say that. At one point, I said, "No, I'm not going to go on that plane." So it's yeah, So I get the picture that you're giving me here, or making a deal. I've been in deals that I was very close to the deal, and then I said,
You walk
no,
right out. I'm
I'm
done.
not going to
Nope. I
do that.
walk
And
out.
everybody would say, John, we already, it's very close. And I said, no, I don't, there's something about it I don't like.
That's your soul. That's your soul.
Yeah. And that
Okay.
happens to
So
me.
it's like if something out of the ordinary happens. Suppose you're driving your car and a flock of turkeys go in front of your car. that's a sign. They're trying to give you a message. So you have to look up the meaning. What's the meaning? What's the spiritual meaning of a flock of turkeys?
Right.
And when you look it up, you'll be, oh my God, right?
Right.
But if you don't
So,
know, you don't.
so I'm in an interesting period in my life because I'm approaching 84, and it took me a while to figure out that I was ADHD. I call it a superpower, actually. Now, the other thing that you may
It
find,
actually is. I used to work with kids with special needs, and that was my specialty, was the ADHD.
the interesting part about it, June, I just wanted to share that with you. Dr. Halliwell has ADHD, wrote about 18 different books, has been extremely successful. I bought the book in 1997, as I explained to you. He wrote it in 1993. I had him on my podcast. Amazing. So we talked about it, and I've been very active in it. I always thought that maybe 8% of the population, a lot of people thought that that's what it was at ADHD. I believe it was closer to 20%. I shared it with Dr. Halliwell, and he said, no, John, probably 25%.
Yeah,
And,
I think
and
it's even
then
higher than that, to be
and
honest.
maybe even higher than that. The other part that I found interesting, and you can relate to this, is that the other part that I said, it was an extremely interesting podcast, actually. And the other thing that was interesting about it is that I said, from my experience, that probably 50% of the successful CEOs, entrepreneurs, and the operative is successful are likely ADHD. He said, no, John, probably 75%. you
So
know,
it has nothing to do with intelligence.
no.
It has to do with the wiring of your brain and how you learn. You learn differently. So my oldest son was ADD, and he had learning disabilities and reading comprehension and things like that. So he learned tools to be able to compensate for that. And the kid is phenomenal in business. He owns his own business. He's just incredible. Um, so the other thing that I wanted to say to you, because I had a very difficult upbringing as well, and you had a very difficult and challenging upbringing. So keep in mind that two things. First of all, you planned a very challenging life for yourself. Okay, we have no one to blame but ourselves because it made us who we are. And secondly, I have found that the people that have the more challenging lives have the higher calling. We're here to do more and to help more people, because that's the
Exactly.
ultimate reason that we're here, is to help each other, and we're here to help more of the masses.
And so that then being said, June, and then when I found that in January of 1997 that I got ADHD, so, and then a lot of people have said to me, hey, John, you should write a book about this. And so, now writing books, as you already know, because you're an author as well, is not easy. And so I would start, and I knew 5, 6 years ago, if I didn't do it now, it would never happen. So I wrote a book and an autobiography, and against all odds, quite successful. Is that if and that's delicate because an autobiography, if I don't get it right, I cannot just say, well, write another one. No, you got one crack at it, and if it doesn't work, then
The problem with the autobiography, I wrote mine about 5 years ago. You keep living, and you got adding.
yeah. But I know it's a good one, and then I felt with ADHD, I felt so strongly about that it is a superpower. So few people still look at it as a stigma, and I felt I had to write a book about it. I did that, and this is the book, actually, ADHD Unlocked, and has become a popular book, and it will be on the bestseller list in a lot of cases, and it's just a matter of time. The book is interesting because you can start anywhere, go either this way or the other way, and it is not only
I'm
important
a
for.
Gemini. We always start our books from the back and go forward.
So that's a good one. And then the other one that I found is so many people are frustrated in what they are doing and they don't like their jobs. I said, do something different, because if you don't like your job, everybody around you will feel that you're not
You have to
happy.
do what you
And
love. You
and
have to
so
do what you
uh,
love. Find what
and
you
then
love and
I
do it.
know so many young people, and I do a lot of presenting to young people. And then I ask them, what kind of a job career you're looking for? They say, I don't know. I said, well, start checking it out respectfully. You want to be a welder? Talk to welders. You want to be a carpenter? Or a builder? Talk to builders. You want to be a doctor? Talk to doctors. Talk to lawyers or whatever, or even an entrepreneur. And they love to talk to people that ask them, how's your job, what are the pluses, the minuses, and you form an opinion. So I also felt that I had to write a book about it, and I said, finding your passion, living the dream. And so that's another one. And that for me, it was not easy to write books, actually, because I grew up in, as I said, northeastern Holland. I don't know if you've been in Holland. Holland's a small
No,
country,
not yet. No.
and it's a beautiful country, actually. Small
Okay.
country, but the northeastern part is, we speak a dialect that is somewhat different from High Dutch. So I had to acquire, I love speaking dialect, so I had to acquire speaking High Dutch when I got into the Air Force, and and then I barely got that under control. Then I came to Canada to speak English, and then I just started writing.
Right.
So
You must speak French, right? You must speak French. You're in Canada.
so then the other book that I wrote is, I'm also into health, well-being, and quality of life, longevity and quality of life. I'm the oldest competitive bodybuilder in North America, and I'm writing a book about that. It's this
Good
one,
for
Living
you.
Young, Dying Old.
Yeah, good for
And
you.
and
Got to take
it's a,
care of your body. You only got one.
and you only
Mm,
got one. And
yeah.
so that with all the things that have happened and making decisions, for me it was not an easy decision to start writing books, but once I got into it, I was successful in doing it. The same with podcasting, which is a whole new media. I used to do, and still do to a certain extent, do a lot of keynote presentations all over the place, but they take a lot of time, and a lot of times when I do it coming from here, it takes me 2 days of my life and to make a presentation somewhere in the States or other places. And although podcasting, especially virtual, there you are in Florida, I'm sitting here, and we have this amazing conversation about these things. And then at the same time, we realize, although we have that conversation, the two of us, I know already that tens of thousands of people will be watching our conversation that we are having here. So it is still at the very infancy, in my opinion, where we are in terms of podcasting and social media. And it will go much beyond here. And I
I
believe
would
that's
agree.
very important.
I would agree. Yep. It's an easy form of communication for people to be able to connect with the distance, which is nice,
Yeah,
and share information that you're not going to get normally.
exactly. And so again, kind of looking in some of the other things that so at approaching 84, and one of the things that you had, and you asked me the questions, and I don't usually do that. I just go through it. And but the one thing that I thought interesting and is saying, am I at what really is midlife crisis? So my question to you is, I already passed that point. It's probably around 40. What is the
So,
second? What is my? What is? I'm being tongue in cheek a little bit. So I'm probably approaching the second midlife crisis because I want to be 120.
so they've termed it midlife crisis, right? But is it really? Sometimes it hits people at 30, right? Some people
Yeah.
it doesn't hit until 60 or 70. But it's really just a time that you wrote into your life plan to really sit and ask yourself, why am I here? What's my purpose? Is there something beyond? And I can tell you that I've never met an atheist on their deathbed. I've met some atheists, and they were not atheists before they passed. I can tell you that.
Right.
The older we get, the more we realize that life is very, in this body is very fleeting. And it is.
Right.
And when you look at, when you look at time as infantile, right? Our soul goes on forever. We only come back here every 350 to 400 years is what I've been able to calculate for reincarnation. There's exceptions to every rule, but that's about the average. And we come down
Right.
here, other than to collect our karma and, pay our karma, we come to learn our lessons and teach our lessons. And, there's only three different types of relationships. I didn't get into that at all. But one of the biggest types of relationships that people get into are karmic relationships. And a karmic relationship is just specifically to learn one of those five lessons.
Right.
And, once one or the other has learned that lesson, that relationship ends immediately. Like you wake up one morning and you ask why you're even with this person or why they're in your life.
Right.
Um, so we're here for a mini vacation too, because on the other side, you don't have a body. You can't taste food. You can't do the things that you can do with a body here. You can't have sex, all of those things. When
Right.
you're on the other side, you literally have to live vicariously through the people that are here.
Right.
So, if you want to go fishing, you got to go find a fishing boat and stand next to the guy that's actually catching the fish, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So these are the reasons that we come here, and we're not here for a long time. And we get so bogged down at the beginning of our lives, stuck in the 3D and all the drama of, am I worthy? Is anybody going to love me? Will I have money? I don't have enough money. How come I keep losing my money? How come I
Right.
can't get ahead in life? All of these things because we've forgotten how to work with the energy and how to work with the universe and how to bring things into our lives. We're meant to live a life of abundance while we're here, not a life of lack, ever, ever. Even the beggar on the street, the man that lives on the street and has nothing, if he asks the universe for a hot meal and a warm bed, I guarantee you he will have one that night. I
Right.
guarantee it. But there
Right.
is self responsibility built into that. You can't sit at home and say, Prince Charming, come and save me, and think it's going to be the
No.
mailman or the UPS man. You have to
No.
get yourself out there into the public so the universe can bring you that person. Self responsibility. When you do the work, the universe gives you the reward. It's how it works.
So then, if I kind of talk to you and saying, okay, here is John Brink, so I gave you my background. I grew up during the war years, was 3 years old. Then I had a dream at 5 that I wanted to go to the land of my heroes, Canada. I did that, and then I wanted to build a lumber mill. It was not if, that's what I was going to do. I didn't was not very successful in school. I failed grade 3, grade 7 3 times, and then But even so, I knew that I would start over again and do it in Canada, and then I wanted to build a mill. I'm Most people that know me would say, John is always positive, and I'm seldom that I'm down. I'm usually happy-go-lucky, but I'm a good
And
businessman,
that's
and
another secret. That's another secret, isn't it? You have employees, right?
yeah,
So
well,
if you've got an employee that just pisses and moans and bitches about everything, you're just going to avoid them, aren't you?
I
And
don't
you've
want
got
them
an
around there. That's what
employee,
I say.
you, and you've got an
Attitude,
employee. Yeah, you got an
attitude.
employee that every time you give him something, he's so grateful. Thank you for giving me the overtime. I appreciate it. Thank you for this. You're going to give more of them, right? And the
Exactly.
universe is the same way. The more grateful you are, the more it will give you.
Attitude, passion, work ethic, and what will follow is success, whatever that means to an individual. To me, making a lot of money is not success. To me, is being relatively happy and contented in the relationships that I have and the things that I've done, and being
Success is different
appreciative.
for everyone. For everyone. For some people, just being able to marry and have a family is success. It's different
Exactly.
for everyone, depending on what you planned for your life here.
The other part, June, that I say in presentations that I do, or where the opportunity presents itself, I was born during war. War is not good. And in fact, a lot of people think that you have the war, and then when the war is over, everything goes back to what they consider to be normal. That's not so. It can last a generation, maybe 2 generations. And we are so fortunate living in North America with all the things that are going on in the Ukraine and those kind of places, the Middle East, and all those kind of things. We are
Well,
so
we're fighting a
lucky.
different war. We're fighting a different war. COVID was, the pandemic that showed it to everyone, the evil that's in the world. We've been fighting a war of good and evil on this earth for a long time, and it's
Right.
hitting everyone's doorstep right now. Everyone's.
Is it going to change though, June, or will that be the way
Yeah,
things are?
absolutely. So it's coming to a head right now. So everyone that has the opportunity to be alive during this, you chose to be here at a very important time in this world. You're here to really help the masses. That's why you're here. And you have a very important job. Yeah, it's a war. There's going to be a lot of people that die. Look how many people are dying from the COVID shots alone, right? There's going to be
Exactly.
a lot of
Mhm.
death associated with it. But in the end, God wins. He always wins.
Right.
And it's coming to a head, and this is going to be the end of it. All the evil is going to be taken out at this point, and what's going to be left is going to be amazing. Absolutely incredible.
June, it was an amazing conversation. I'm going to send you copies of my books. I'm going to sign them for you.
Well, thank you. I
And
appreciate it.
and the other one is coming out in August, Living Young, Dying Old. And so
So I have 4 books that I've written already. I've written my autobiography. I've written a guidebook for everyone that wants to improve their psychic ability and their mediumship. It's called A Night on the Other Side. It's what I used to teach in mediumship and psychic development classes. And I also have a destiny card journal for people to be able to write their intentions in and understand how that works. So they can find all of the books on my website, juneedwood.com. They can find them in the
okay,
bookstores, but it's easier on my website, juneedwood.com. There's also a free webinar that they can take on my website, and they can learn a
okay.
little bit more about how energy works. And if they're
And
interested in the relationship mastery program, they can schedule a call for that as well. And they can schedule an appointment with me if they want a reading or something.
and all of that is on juneedwards.com.
No
Now,
S. June Edward with no S.
oh, sorry,
JuneEdward.com.
dot
Yep.
com. And did you do audios on your book?
Yes, there is an audio on my book as well. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
on
and I
Audible.
have
It's
audios on
on
mine as well.
yeah. So it's all's fair in love and karma.
Sounds amazing conversation, June. Very, very interesting for all our peoples and all our guests that are watching us. And Scott will talk to you about an address, where we can
Wonderful.
send the
Thank
books
you.
that I'm going to
Appreciate
sign
it.
for you. And
Thank you.
then
Makes me love it.
it was a privilege and a pleasure having a podcast with you. And as I
Same
indicated, the
here.
podcast will come out tomorrow morning.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Nice to meet
Thank,
you.
thanks, June. Take care.